All right, welcome. We are now at chapter 16 called They Will Hear Him. And in this chapter, actually in chapter 15, the chapter ended with Aphraar making his first contact with Robert James. And his first message was to his dad. He was surprised that this is allowed, that it is that simple to just relay a message and you can send a message to your family or your loved ones. So that was his first message, and we didn't bring it up last week. I wanted to keep it combined with this week. And so in this week, Robert James then go and speak with Stephen, the father. So a couple of good points come out from out of there. Some of the suggestions I made to discuss was, I think we can combine question 1 and 2. So Aphraar's first message to Earth was about sending a message to his father. And there's a quotation on page 160. In my hope and expectation, I had failed entirely to consider the Earth influence in balancing the probabilities. Acting upon the change I found in my father in the sleep interview, I was led to apply this estimate to him in relation to his dealing with the message I just transmitted. So what was Aphraar hoping to get from his father based on their sleep state conversation? And why is his first contact with family to his father, whom he had never had much of a relationship, except for that one sleep state visit, which in my opinion wasn't really all that positive. So, but even then, Aphraar had this hope of like, well, we made a breakthrough in the sleep state, so maybe. So what are your feelings about why is he reaching out to his father and what was he hoping to get based on their sleep state experience? Karen.
I thought it was 2 things. I thought first he was trying to correct the issue of the book being like to return that to his father and the money that the person had given him. So I thought that was kind of the main point of it. Those 2 things are obviously, if he's alive, that wouldn't have happened. So I felt like he was kind of taking responsibility for that and trying to correct it. So that's why I felt like he was reaching out to because his father was the one that could correct it, could pay the money back, and it was his book. So
like unfinished business, like for Aphraar, that's his unfinished business with Earth, kind of like.
Yeah, that kind of probably still weighed on him, that things weren't put back in the right order, I guess.
Yeah, so, yeah, right. Okay.
And I felt he also hoped that his dad would, it would pique his dad's interest and go, wow, there is something after death, and that it might take his father on that process of investigating and
could he could at least get his dad curious and investigate.
Yeah, and he thought from the sleep state experience that might be possible, but as we found out, it didn't work out that way.
Okay, but the reason why he didn't investigate is interesting in itself.
Yeah, it's basically monetary.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Other people's feelings? Selena?
It made me actually think about how we also have trouble getting our families to hear stuff. Like, he was probably, I'd be so excited. Like, this is like real stuff.
Right.
You know, this should blow his lights out.
Right.
And it didn't. So, you know how we try, and we have things we think we're going to blow their lights out, you know, our family, our kids, our parents, whatever. And no, it doesn't happen. Not really. Yeah.
But why do you feel that his dad was the first thing he went for?
Well, because he'd already had a communication with him. Because he's his dad, because like he would like to fix his dad. Just like we would like to fix our families by sharing divine truth. And then we do it and we end up getting attacked.
Yes.
Right. Which is kind of what he did there. So it just reminded me of, you know, similar experiences that I've had and probably other people have had. where you try to share it, and like he really did attack
Oh yeah.
James. Yeah.
Mm.
Like it
Yeah.
says warmly. He warmed quite warmly, like, what are you doing here? Warmly, you
You
know.
trying to blackmail me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeepers, rats, you know. But it seemed like an important lesson for Aphraar.
Well, I mean, it would be because for the first three spheres, I think we're still very earthbound. We're still very earth influenced, as in family, blood family is important. And then over time, we kind of give up on it, I guess, because of these kind of experiences.
Yeah.
But then, or maybe he had some feelings of like how he always mourned his mother, but then he remembered his sleep state and said, no, I have a good relationship with my mother, and we're closer than ever. Maybe he was hoping that that was possible with his dad.
Maybe.
Have that
Yeah. But like I agree with you. The sleep state experience they had was really not very good.
Yeah.
It kind of mostly focused on his dad trying to get Aphraar to apologize.
Yeah. Or rather, he's saying, you and I apologize to each other. We're good now, right? We're good. It's all over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But Aphraar held on to that, like, oh, there's an opportunity.
That little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, if my father had apologized in that way, it was sort of like a qualified apology, you know.
Yeah.
But maybe for his dad, that was something.
That was a big deal.
That was a big deal. I just realized that was probably a big apology for his dad.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So the two things going on here. One is the unfinished business where Aphraar wants to put things right, literally, like the money in the book has to come back to its original places. But then also there's that hope that maybe I can still help my dad see the truth, because there's a lot of conversation about the mask you have when you're on Earth and what you really look like in your sleep state, and how can you not stay? Aphraar forgot that when we come back into our bodies, the mask comes on and we pretend the other thing doesn't happen. So there's a lot of that conversation. Yeah, Virginia?
Sorry, I was just going to say the same thing that has been talked about, is that Aphraar has this, he seems to have this hope and desire of assisting his father perhaps into a better soul condition.
Yeah.
And help him to see that there is something beyond what he has on Earth.
Yes.
His Earth life.
Right.
Yeah.
And that actually he needs to wake up to it because he's not earning, his spiritual bank account is kind of empty. So he's probably kind of feeling a bit desperate or really wanting to help. But wanting to help somebody that really didn't give him much. So it's kind of say something about Aphraar's characteristics, that he wants to reach out to his dad, even though, his dad hasn't been very warm towards him. He still want to help him out. And then, Mayanin allows all of that experience to happen, even though they've looked at this for thousands of years and know what's going to happen next. They kind of went along with it. What do you think that is? Karen?
I think they wanted Aphraar to experience it.
Right.
I think I remember there was something that said that in the book, that rather experience it rather than just hear it as a truth and not have the experience of it. I don't know, there was some quote about that.
Yeah, I kind of find interesting that, you would think after a couple of thousand years, you're like, oh, been there, done that. I don't want to go through this again. No, they honor how each of us have to go through the process again and again and again. And they help us.
It says here, Mayanin knew this, as afterwards I discovered, but he did not interfere, because those neglected forces tell like weights of lead in their opposition to our efforts, and it was better that I should discover it in practice rather than learn it as a theory.
Okay. So that means that our guides and God value our experiential learning versus theoretical learning. There's something about having to experience it ourselves that seems to be important here.
then it becomes a knowing, doesn't it? If you just hear it and you haven't experienced it, you can't know it.
Sorry, sirens going on here loud. So that that makes it go. That, I mean, there are a lot of things we're learning here theoretically, and yet it needs to sink in. And until it sinks in, we just don't value. We just probably it's just not. Something just doesn't change in our soul. Maybe it's just not a real thing until it becomes experienced. But how patient they are in helping each of us have our own experiences, creating the setup, patiently allowing things to play out. It's kind of really cool. But then they talk about the flash. You put on the flash and you forget your sleep state. That makes me nervous. Every time I read it, I get a little nervous because I'm going, yeah, I put on the flash. What am I denying? What am I forgetting? And yeah, I'm actually quite triggered by that, by that fact that could be happening for me, could be happening for all of us, that we're in denial and we want to stay in denial. I want to not remember my sleep state. So what is it about the earth life that pulls us so strongly? Virginia and then Jill.
Because that's where we live right now. That's the life we're in.
Okay.
It's much easier to dismiss what happened in your sleep state.
Okay, yeah.
Or minimize the experiences if you judge them as unpleasant.
We have a way of numbing it out.
Yeah, I feel like we can minimize it, downplay it. It's just easier to do because you can just say, oh, this was just in my sleep state. It doesn't weigh as heavily as what we think happens in the flesh.
Right.
And our life here, our physical life. At least I think I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah.
That I have to really, and I've been asking, I want to remember what's happening in my sleep state. I want to learn from it. I want to understand. I am picking up more and more.
Okay.
But I felt that sometimes, like that wasn't really important, or that's, that was nothing. Okay. And because I didn't understand it, or because it just happened while I was sleeping.
Yeah. So we're still
my life.
So we're still seeing sleep life as not real life. We're still seeing sleep state as that's not actual life. This is actual life, and sleep state is just something that happens that's not real. Versus Aphraar have said many times that the sleep state is the real life, and this is just us putting on some flesh. So, but we're still very attached. Huh. Okay. Jill?
Yeah, everything that Virginia said, and then adding into that, our lack of faith, that is not, that's not real. It's our, or even if, our, I want to say like the new age belief that we have to analyze everything that happens in our dreams or in our what would be our sleep state means something else. Like it doesn't have that face value aspect.
Good point. Yes, that's right. It's a Jungian interpretation.
Yeah.
Huh. So again, the concept that it's not real. Karen?
Yeah, I agree with what Virginia and Jill were saying, and just to kind of add on something, I feel like when we're little, our parents tell us that's not real. That's just,
that's true.
You have a bad dream, that's imaginary. And so I feel like we're taught from a really early age it's not true.
Yes.
And then we're having to undo that belief and say,
Yes.
well, it's true, but by that time, we're so invested in our facade. And so,
Yes.
you know, if I start to remember kind of awful things happening in my sleep state, then there's an investment not to want to remember that and just to stay focused on the earth life.
Okay, that's a good point. We will have to go back and undo their "that's not real" stuff. And then the investment in facade, like, you know, there's the reference given to, what is it, Mr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll, or is it the other way around? Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde. So our wanting to deny all these other emotions and motivations that we have, as long as we want to deny it, we're not going to want to know what we're actually playing out in our sleep state, because in the sleep state you get to be real. So we have to be invested in our facade that we're nice people. Yeah, I can see that will be playing out there. And also I wonder if it's like a collective, we all need to collectively pretend to agree that this is all there is and there's nothing else there. So we all need to plug into, we still want to continue our relationship with society. So we have to agree with the dream time, with the story, the collective story of society. I wonder if our investment in that relationship also keep us there. Like, we need to agree with the facade of the world, because when you start to unplug, everybody around you can feel that you're opposing something, even if you don't say it, and you can start to feel something coming at you emotionally. I've done some of those. When I challenged some of those beliefs, I could feel as if all of Vancouver suddenly was coming at me. Like, how dare you not agree with us in this one belief we all have as a city, kind of things. So it got pretty, like, you start to feel more and more like an outsider in that place. So what are some of our beliefs as a society that will keep us ignoring sleep state? Jill?
For me, it's, you know, as a kid, I had some very horrific dreams.
Okay.
And so to willingly go back there, or to accept the fact that those dreams were actually real, that, you know, that's a lot of terror that I'd have to process to and I don't know if I'd want to do that.
Yeah. Okay. It also seems to bring up despair for me. As I listen to you speak, I'm thinking, as a child, I would have been told that if I'm seeing dark stuff or devil or stuff, then that's because that's what I deserve. I'm that bad kid, and that is what I deserve, and that's where I'm going. That's the kind of stuff that was coming at me as a child. So that would make me feel terrible that I'm a terrible person. So that would stop me from wanting to feel that. There's a sort of feeling of despair, like, because then you think this is all there is. As a child, if you're seeing dark spirits around you, there's this feeling of like, I'm really trapped. So I wonder if so it looks like it's childhood stuff that we're going to have to come back and remember. That's what seems to be coming up for everyone. In order to undo this belief, we're going to have to undo the childhood experiences. Okay, I can see that playing out. And that's the piece that, yeah, and what's coming up for me is this feeling of despair. So, okay. Okay. Anything else you want to add about this topic, Selena?
Well, I'm interested in that aspect of agreement, that it's even possible that other people that you're engaging addictions with in your sleep state also, like, there would be some agreement, like, if nobody remembers, then we're all safe, right? Like, kind of.
When you go back, don't you remember this?
Yeah, kind of, yeah, but, you know, especially if maybe you're involved with quite a few people, or a big ripple effect.
Yeah.
There would be quite an investment in everybody keeping their, like, not remembering, like that would not be comfortable to
'Cause
even know that there's somebody out there that's remembering what you're doing,
Because if you
or
start
that
to
you're
remember,
engaging in them.
and then you start to feel about it, then the whole group dynamic is gone. All the other participants are going to start to feel the changes, and you kind of all of that interaction. And because I guess if the awake state and the sleep state remembers, if you remember what's going on, now the two sides of you, the Jekyll and the Hyde, can integrate. And so you're going to be less polarized. You're going to be more real about who you are. But then being real, you also get to start to work on it. So you can start changing. So then there'll be integration. And real change can happen, because if you have denied motivations and you're living in your facade, in the meantime, the other side just keep getting darker and darker. And your facade self think you're a good person. And then you get the other side and you're like, oh, that was a lie. That'd be pretty shocking. But if you start doing it now, you'll start to change. So there are some benefits, I guess. I mean, it'd be shocking to wake up to it, but eventually it's going to be shocking. Whenever you do it, it's going to be the same reaction.
Yeah. And having just recently have some feeling of that possible authenticity in that place, to maybe to actually desire that, even though it's really awful, to actually desire that more than separation created by the things that you want to come between you and that.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're growing
attractions
to know. You're growing a desire to know what's going on.
Yes, growing a desire to know, and no matter what is, and it could just even be feeling terrible emotional pain, not even just feeling bad about what you're doing, but just having a horrible pain experience, to choose that instead.
Yeah.
Because it's authentic.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay, so moving on to the next one. Point 3. There was a part where Robert James just about got through to Stephen, when Robert James said to Stephen, you can verify the message, and once you verify the message, here's how you can contact me later. And then Aphraar is saying, no, get Robert James to wait half an hour. Let it happen right now. Let's get through to my dad. But Yuzumos said, no, we're going to wait, and we're going to let him choose. If your father is honest in his desire to know more about the subject, let him accept the invitation for Wednesday. And basically, Yuzumos, if that's how you say it, he said he's the one that's been giving that impression to Robert James to give that answer. So it was really cool that they were helping Robert James set the boundary, not accept the bad treatment, and set those guidelines. Here's my message. Here's when you can come get to me if you want more. So what are you feeling about that interaction itself? Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, he mentioned something about the respecting the free will as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting, just the level of respect that they have for a person's free will. So I guess both Robert James Lee and also the father, because he obviously didn't want to, to go there. Like, he was pretty resistant to the whole thing. And so by putting the ball in his court, it kind of gives him the opportunity to then choose whether he wants to know more about it, even if he's resistant. So is, because he kind of wanted to confirm it.
I want to do what Aphraar was doing. Going, well, this is it. Let's put the nail in. Let's just nail this down. Let's give it half an hour and let's get him. He's opening. Come on. I would have totally done that. So yeah.
I kind of liked how Lee's was the way he was then. Like, it's like he's busier. I've got things to do as well, and it's not just about he had a self-respect, a self-love that had boundaries, and
Yes.
very interesting.
Yeah. And also, I think Izumo's had this kind of going, I think when it comes to money, your dad's probably going to step back. So why don't we give that, let him think about it and let him choose instead of trying to, like, I would say, gently manipulate him to kind of get in there. But it's like, no. Like, this has made me realize, like, whoa, free will is a real big deal here. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Selena?
Again, I thought it was interesting because of Aphraar's reaction. Like, I know my father. Like, we got to just nail him down, because he probably suspecting in the back of his mind, like, if you give him any kind of out, give him a little bit of time to think about it, he's gone. We'll lose him. I know him. Like, if you can get him right now, maybe, maybe he'll bend a bit, he's because he really wants to help him, and he really has this desire, right? So, and he just, but that, in spite of, it's interesting, in spite of our personalities, they still aren't going to use force or force our will in any way. Like he says, this is the law.
Yes. Okay.
Which I thought was very, the law, not just what we think might work in the moment, but this is the law. Like, you give and then you create it. What did he call it? Make a demand.
Yes.
Yes.
Offer, reciprocate, and then make a demand.
Give you this opportunity, then we make a demand and we leave it. That's the law.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. Yeah. And I think that was probably the most important lesson maybe for Aphraar, because of what he wants to do.
That's right.
There's laws in place when it comes to will.
Because he has this passion of, like, we got to bring the message back to Earth.
Exactly.
Let everybody know, you got to listen to this. And then they're like, well.
Yeah. So, I thought that was neat. And having it be his father was just really perfect. Yeah. Because the desire would be really strong because it's your father. If it was just any other person, he could temper that with what he's been learning and the laws and everything. But no, this is my dad. Get him.
And there was a slight opportunity, but even then they're going, that's not enough.
Yeah. No, he's kind of having a little bit of, are you really? Like, this is really happening? Just a moment there where he actually might have just believed him. Yeah.
So we got to have a real strong desire, not just a momentary, like, oh, that would be kind of nice. That's not enough. They want us to really lock it in.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
And commit to it and be sincere. Because the word sincere was also used. It's like, if your dad is sincere, he will come on a Wednesday and talk some more. So mention the word sincerity. So sincere desire in the soul is a big deal. And until then, they will see it as a free will option or decision and respect it. Really cool. Kind of makes you respect them more, making me trust my guides more. So it's kind of cool. Virginia. Oops, did you unhand?
Okay. I just really felt that in this chapter, it just became very apparent how everything is just done from love, with love.
Right. Wow. What do you mean?
And whether it be allowing free will, and it just, every little thing is really done from love.
Okay.
To everyone. It's just, I just thought that was really, I just really like that part of it. How that's just what could not seem like a really important event, and how everything is handled with such care and love, and every decision for everyone involved.
That's a good point. I like to see certain event of my day is important, and the rest of it is just whatever. I'm just doing stuff. I don't see it as significant or important. I see certain peaks of my day, and the rest of it is just mundane. But to them, every moment is treated as if there's an opportunity here that we got to treat as sacred or important as every other moments. Kind of exhausting. Just thinking about it made me go, God, I just want to I'm going to go home tonight and I'm out. It's like, yeah, that's exhausting, but that's not where they're at. So, wow. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. So they then, so if your father, page 163, if your father is honest in his desire to know more about the subject, let him accept the invitation for Wednesday. His attitude is one of piqued curiosity. The two will never meet again, or it will cost your father 20 pounds. And that will be more to him than the truth. And further knowledge might demand other restitution, and your father is not the man to court such risk. What does Eusamos, is that how you pronounce his name, mean by other restitution? So basically, if the father accepts that this is true, and he actually go and ask somebody, is it true that my son owe you 20 bucks, 20 pounds? Yes. Well, okay, this is not true, and I got to give you back 20 pounds, which is already like, I don't know how to do it. But if he accept that, now there are other implications that his dad doesn't want, the other implications of that sentence, or what can come along after that. What does that mean? What are the other restitution that father is not wanting to feel about? Selena?
Well, what I read into that was maybe his father's greed.
Okay.
His greed. Aphraar being who he was. I mean, he wasn't expecting to die so young, so maybe he didn't really have his estate properly set out.
Yes.
He would not have likely left everything to his dad if he thought he was going to die so young. It's because being the generous person that he was. So if he would have had to reflect at all on what Aphraar wanted, his father, like, you wouldn't want to go there, because he'd know darn well he'd want to give it to that church, the place where he would go to with the poor people. Like, wouldn't he? Of course he would. But like, I don't even think his dad would even, because he already thought his son was weird and he did weird things, and he probably already was giving money to all kinds of people that his dad didn't approve of. Just knowing who he was, I can't imagine he wouldn't have been that person, right?
Thank you.
So that's what I read into that he was just really like, I got away with something here. I got to have my son's whole estate and keep it for myself.
And so if I listen to this, what else is Aphraar going to make me do? Then I don't want to have to do.
Yeah, I don't even want to go, like, maybe even his conscience might have triggered him a bit,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Karen?
I just interpreted it as from the word restitution, so how he's already said that man, he owed 20 pounds. Maybe there's more people he owes 20 pounds to. Like, who else has given him money? So I interpret it quite literally as that, if he's having to repay that one, then who else does he have to maybe there's a risk then that there's more people, and he doesn't want to.
That's a good one too. I think that's valid as well. And then Jill and Laura. Yeah, Jill.
Selena and Karen said what I was going to say.
Okay, thank you. Laura?
Do you think there's a reason why the return of the book was kind of intertwined with that? So it's like, I'm giving you back your property, and so that you get, there's the recognition of of that. Okay. But also that the same thing is happening, like, this was a loan to somebody, and I want to return that as well. Yeah. Sort of, so that the father maybe can, I don't know how to say the words, but like, you know what I mean?
Oh, so his reputation, as in, so my dead son told me these things and I got to give this back to you and people are going to think it's weird. Is that what you mean by that?
More just the feeling of having the thing returned to him. Yes. It might make him feel a little bit differently about the return of the other thing.
Yes.
As in like a recognition that it's the right thing to do, sort of thing.
Yes, and he doesn't want his conscience getting more awakened.
You mean the
I
dad?
think something there, Laura. So I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Because the feeling that will awaken in Stephen is conscience, right? Like his conscience will start to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. You know, it's almost like it's the same thing. It's like this is yours, and I want to return that, but also this is this person's, and you know, it might just help him to understand
Yes.
and let go of maybe even the money.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
And yeah, and what I made out of that statement was that if he got this message, well, you know, somebody's owed money and here's this afterlife experience saying, well, that's got to get paid back, then how much have I taken from other people? And am I going to have to now pay everybody back? And how much have I been unethical in my dealings? And do I have to go settle all of those accounts too? Like, what does that make me? So I felt like it was going to bother his conscience of what he will now have to make up for, because if just an issue of 20 pounds can be such a big deal, well, he's probably got thousands of pounds of stuff to balance out because he's been greedy. And probably his conscience. I feel like that's what you're suggesting there, Laura.
Yes, yeah, sort of. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing. It just kind of popped into my head.
Guessing.
Yeah, and who knows how the extent of what else was going on for his dad. But I just thought maybe that there was a kind of a reason why the two were together, like a recognition that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it would feel good to have something returned to you after, you know, because otherwise it would have been lost. So
yeah,
it would have been a feeling that you got from that.
That's right.
If you valued the thing.
That's right.
So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Other comments about that, Michael?
I agree with Karen. I believe he didn't want to, if he paid restitution there, he would need to keep probably others that he would have to pay restitution for, or settle even the score with.
Yeah.
And I agree with Laura also. He was able to collect a book from somebody that had been loaned out from his library, but he was unwilling to return something to somebody else that belonged to somebody else. So he's not really willing to treat others as he wants to be treated.
Yeah.
And probably maybe if he had been willing to repay that money, it could have opened his heart or done something beautiful for him, but he'd missed that chance.
Well, like he chose money, like, or rather he chose greed. It's not even money. Money is not a problem. It's the greed. He chose greed. Like that's
instead
kind
of
of
the
a choice.
principle.
Yeah. Okay. Karen?
I was just going to add on to that point that Laura made and Michael was talking about. I feel like if they didn't offer the book thing, he would have just dismissed it and thought he was being ripped off, because that was his first thing, was saying, oh, you're working in harmony with it, or you're working with this, I forget the person's name, Aphraar. But by giving him something back, I feel like that's what had furnished proof. And I feel that's what Aphraar was hoping would open him up to going, well, wow, I've got my book back. This message must be true. But then, unfortunately, he's made the choice to decide not to pay the money back. And in case he has to pay more.
It's like instantaneous. Your soul is currently have the strong desire of, I got to hold on to my money with everything I have. And it's like instantaneous. You get all this other opportunity and you don't even think about it. It immediately comes out of you going, nope, I'm not doing that. Like it just drives your decision without you even kind of consciously being able to think about it. That's how strong these emotional impulses can be, or addictions can be. That's kind of like, because if you didn't have those feelings about greed, like what Selena was saying, if somebody's saying, I got proof from somebody who just passed away, wow, Like, how exciting is this? Like, there's this whole other thing, this whole other world I can explore, and it's adventurous. You will have gone for it. So kind of makes me go, wow, what strong impulses do I have that is making me just block out all these other gifts coming to me? Because you don't even think about it. So the next point we had was the law. What my father asked for was easily obtainable if he was sufficiently honest in his desire to seize the opportunity opened out to him. That is a law under which we work. We reciprocate, first furnishing proof, then make a demand. What do they mean by that? First, so you have a desire for some truth or something. So they reciprocate by providing proof, and then there will be a demand. What do they mean by that? What comes to you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm quite confused by this demand.
Yeah.
I understand the furnishing of proof. And it's like what Selena was saying earlier, like they give you the proof and then how he said to Stephen, this is the proof. And then the demand was, if you want to know about it further, you can come to my house after 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. But yeah, I'm confused because I've always thought demands are unloving. So I'm a bit confused by this. What they
and it's a law under which they work. So, and we're talking about spirit guides, not the one that are kind of like the, low trances or psychic meetings people have with lower conditioned spirits. So, I'm trying to understand. It's like, okay, say you have we're really trying to understand. I'm trying to going, okay, could it be that, say I have a question about how to practice medicine in harmony with God? That's a desire. And then I start to get some help. I start to get some answers. Is the demand be that, what will I do with the information? Will I develop? Will I grow? Will I ignore it? And that will then lead to further interactions? Is that what they mean? Or Jill?
I was just going to agree with you. I think it's that if they're going to go out of their way, because it's not an easy thing to come to Earth, for them to be able to come to Earth. So if they're going to come to Earth and give you proof, or in whatever form, or make that proof happen, then their demand is that, I think, A, you believe them, and B, you fix whatever, that fix is not the right word, but you have that correction that you are able to now have because you have this truth, or the correction that you're able to go through because you now have this truth.
Right.
And
what
that's like
to take.
So if that correction is that you need to, repent or forgive, or, something, that if we're going to give you this proof, then the demand is that, and demand or expectation is that you actually follow it through, I guess, is a way of saying that. Yeah.
In some shape or form. Huh. Virginia and then Selena.
When I read that, I interpreted the word demand to mean more action. Like action on our part.
Okay. Yeah.
For us to be helped in our desires and what we want to do, there has to be action on our part.
Yeah.
There's assistance, but there has to be action. The word demand kind of threw me off, but that's the way I interpret it, because a demand would be unloving.
So it's kind of like a back and forth. This is a relationship. There's got to be there's something coming back as well.
Yeah, that we have to take some action.
Okay.
I guess you can look at that as a demand.
Yeah, yeah, it is all English. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. Selena.
Well, it just always seems to come down to desire. You know, like if it just seems like if we even take one little step towards desire, then they're there to help. But it's not, they're going to keep hammering the point in. You have to keep wanting to show a desire
So then
in order to, because that's your, otherwise you're interfering with your will. So it's that. And I think we find that too with our any progress that we make or processing, that we have to continue to show a desire.
Yes.
Just even if it's an intellectual one, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Just something. It's a step towards them.
Yes.
Right. So that they're not constantly having to pursue you, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
A step towards them. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I like that. That could be what that means.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Jill?
Right, that made me curious. So I just looked up the meaning of demand in Old English. I just asked the Google, and it means to ask or inquire.
Ah.
So
Okay.
as far as that demand goes,
Okay.
what else did it bring up?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you mute.
Sorry, I was holding down the space bar and I couldn't do that and look at the Google at the same time. So then it that inquire, and then it has to and then it goes into that action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seemed to be that. That's kind of cool. Michael, did you raise your hand? Or yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I saw their method as being generous. He first gave Stephen proof that his son could be alive, and because there was no other way to explain the knowledge of that book, and that he could actually gain something if he trusted it. So a little bit of sweetener there, and then he made the request. You know, if you believe us so far, take this other step. I mean, he wanted to create some confidence first and then make a request of him. And I think that's the reciprocation.
Got it. Yes. Okay. So the demand was then you come show up on Wednesday. You make the effort to come out of your house and go to the stranger's house and show up on a Wednesday evening with sincere desire for more information. That was the demand, which is show us your sincere desire. I think that's what that means in that particular situation. So yeah, okay, thank you. That's finally clicked in for me. Okay, thank you. Selena?
Just the word demand just also brought up to mind just somewhere where in my readings, like a demand note, like how they kind of use the word is a little different, like Jill was saying. Yeah, so I think that using it the way we use it is a little, it's not quite as strong. Like it's just a request, like a demand note would be like an IOU. Like it's not it's just a little bit different connotation.
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
Old English, you can just imagine that kind of conversation going, okay, I get I get what's going on here. So gentleman's type of language kind of thing. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how I see it. Or businessmen would use a word like that quite easily. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in that case, there's kind of an implication of honoring. This is an honorable conversation, it's an honorable agreement, and it's an expectation that you keep your word. Like there's kind of like a integrity, some kind of a conversation of integrity involved.
Integrity. And I think his father had a tendency to not be respectful, perhaps, or to feel that he was in a superior position, more arrogant. So I thought it was kind of cool that he's just put him, like, even though you might not think I have the station that you have or whatever, you will respect my boundaries, and I can also go ask some. I've given you something, and now I feel I can ask something of you, and if you don't respect that, that's fine. That's up to you. But it was because he was very demeaning to him.
Yeah, he was.
Right from the outset. So I think that was good for his father to see that I'm not going to pander to you. Just like if you feel like I should just stand here and wait, like,
And he was being encouraged to be that way by his guides. The guides were helping him to maintain that.
Mhm. Yeah, like to not be intimidated by this guy. He's probably used to intimidating people.
Oh yeah, I mean that is how.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And the final point I came up with in the email was page 164. Is in the middle paragraph, in the middle of the paragraph. No man will complacently regard himself as safe in the commercial world when he knows his check at the bank will be dishonored. And yet the same individual go through life smilingly confident in their condition of spiritual bankruptcy, convinced that when the hour of need arrives, they may draw heavy checks on the bank of fate, where their names are unknown, which checks will be honored at sight, and every spiritual claim find payment through a dying prayer. What is Aphraar referring to in spiritual bankruptcy? And how can we develop ourselves spiritually and fill up our bank account of spirituality? If you can sense or smell my desperation in that sentence of like, what is this bank? What do I have in my account? Somebody help me. So, okay, well, comments? Jill?
I kind of took that as like word for word, that if you're not spiritual and don't develop that relationship with God, then you're not going to have anything in the bank.
Right.
Right. Just
or,
as,
or it could be natural love too. You could not have a relationship with God and yet be spiritually developed.
Yeah.
That means, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was going to say that, and I judge that as far as, the spiritual on any realm.
Yes.
And then kind of, not develop, but at least you have some sort of
what does it mean
avenue.
Though? What is spiritual development? What does that mean here? Natural love or divine love? Karen?
I kind of interpreted it as like developing your ethics, your morals,
right,
your love for other people, your truth, those types of things. And then it can also mean, developing relationship with God, with other spirits, your guides, things like that. But I think it's talking like spiritual, I think it encompasses so many different things.
Okay.
I don't think it's kind of talking about
those parts.
Yeah, any of those parts will help grow your soul. Anything that helps grow your soul, really, isn't it? That helps you be more loving. So anything you do morally, ethically, truth, love, they all help you grow.
Okay.
Help your soul grow. So
like with Aphraar, like he cared for other people. He cared for people that were suffering. He cared with some comfort, some care, and that was obviously
good morals. He's treating other people how he wants to be treated, and things like that. And he's showing love for other people, and so that's increasing his bank balance compared to his dad. He's trying to just really look after himself and gain as much money. That doesn't do anything for your spiritual bank balance.
And if we look at somebody like Aphraar doing what he's doing, we would probably say, well, he's doing something. He's trying to do what little he can, and I don't know how much impact he's having anyway, and just a little drop in a bucket. And yet, looking at his development, it was huge. Like he gained so much from what we think is, or I think is like, well, like I see there's too much suffering in the world, and how much can what little we do really make a difference? Like there's just too much out there. That's my feelings. And yet, what little he could do within his bounds was a huge development, more than what his father did in the material world in terms of benefits and investment. That's what I'm kind of figuring out here. Was it Jill or Selena who raised your hand? Selena.
What I don't know if we're there yet. I think so. The dying prayer part, that to me says, like, don't think you're dying, and you can just say, okay, I'm sorry now.
Yeah. That's
You know,
right.
the dying. Yeah, I like that part. Yeah, it's there's nothing in your bank account, and you're not going to be able to write that check of saying I'm sorry at that point. The dying prayer is not going to work, no matter. Even though it's lots of times, you know, your priest will go, yeah, if you confess everything right now, you'll be good.
Right.
Not going to happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what they mean by ritual, right? Like there's all these rituals you think you can do that just wipes it out.
Well, in every spiritual claim, find payment through a dying prayer.
Yes.
Not going to happen.
Not
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there comments about spiritual bankruptcy, Michael?
A couple of sentences later, he says, he will never become the accomplice of a dying thief seeking to evade justice. That reminded me of the incident in the Bible where Jesus was on the cross and the thief asked to be with him in heaven, and Jesus supposedly said, your sins are forgiven. But we know that that's not true. And so people believe that on their deathbed, they can make a prayer to be saved and then end up in heaven.
Right.
And if they don't have the life, they're not going to be there. So I just saw a parallel. It just reminded me of that incident in the Bible.
Well, I see it as, well, your sins are forgiven, but you still got to pay it off. Like, yes, God has forgiven you, and God is looking forward to you to discharge the payment and then come up. But so I feel like it's kind of both, that you still have to go through the process of discharging the debt, even though, yes, you have been forgiven. But I guess in the Bible, what we've taken it as forgiveness mean being wiped out. We've removed it. Well, it's not removed, it's just been forgiven. So there's a difference in language, maybe. Yeah, thank you. Other comments about spiritual bankruptcy? Michael?
I think it ties in to your opening question about why do we not want to remember the sleep state.
Oh, okay.
I was listening, but the answer for myself was, I don't want to, in my awake state, I don't want to know who I really am.
Okay.
You know, so of course it makes sense in my sleep state, I won't want to know who I really am. So it's like, I think so I'm going to guess that if I start to desire to know who I am and all my faults and stuff, maybe that window will open up into my sleep state and I'll be able to see it there.
Okay.
And so if we do want to see how we really are, then we will see what our spiritual condition really is and whether we are bankrupt or
Yes.
or got a good balance.
And then we'll actually start to develop it. We'll actually start to work it out.
And then the reward or the outcome that we receive when we pass over will make perfect sense. It
Yes.
will meet.
Good
We'll
point.
see that it meets our condition.
And so that way we're probably going to be less likely to be earthbound because we already accept it. Because that, earthbound is about that accepting of like, this is what you have earned. Now come over to the hospital of sin sick soul and discharge your payment. So that's a really good motivation to wanting to be aware of your state, in your sleep state, because then you'll be less likely to be earthbound after, and you won't be rebelling against what you have earned. Okay. How else can we spiritually grow our bank account? Which is kind of interesting. It's like if you're doing good deeds for the sake of having reward, then you're kind of actually not doing good deeds because it's kind of cancel each other out. But what are some examples you guys can think of? Karen?
I think it's just everything I was saying before about doing things that are moral and ethical and truthful and loving people and loving yourself and learning to love God, and any of those will increase that.
Okay. So moral, I'm trying to remember now. Ethical is doing good deeds, but moral is wanting
Morals,
to
treating others how you want to be treated. Whereas ethics is more like God's doing things that are ethical, that are true and right
Okay.
from God's perspective.
Okay. And I wonder if then reflection becomes a big part of it. You got to like contemplate going, I have a lot of judgment, I have a lot of anger, and that's not very loving, and I got to figure out why. At the very least, even if you don't feel love, you can start to investigate why you're not feeling love and stop the harmful action. So that contemplation, I think, is a big part of that spiritual development. Thinking about, what are my actions like every day? What is its impact on others around me? Am I harming people? Why am I doing that? Could be, that's where you start. That's the beginning of. And I like what you're suggesting there, Karen. Like, there are many different outlets for spiritual development. Could be anything that calls to you and feels attractive and passionate for you, and you will develop. Like Aphraar didn't have a relationship with God, didn't have a relationship with any kind of like philosophical thinking or reflection. He just had a desire. Someone is suffering, I want to help them. Like, he's not even necessarily thinking out loud about like, oh, I should be a good person, I should go do some good deeds. It's like it just acted. And it was, there was one outlet available. So we probably have many outlets available in, Jill?
To add to that as well, study, like, learning about God, learning about the laws, learning about how, learning about what your true soul condition is, learning all of that, and then acting. So then the morals, ethics, and values would be acting within that realm, right?
Okay, thank you. Michael?
Okay. I want to ask if there's a distinction, because I think there is. Karen, you said acting the way we would want to be treated. I'm thinking that should not be a motivation for doing good deeds, because that I would picture that as, oh, I want to be treated well, so I'll treat other people well. I think in reflection, if I treat other people well, I could say, is this how I really want to be treated? And then no, but I think actions need to be coming from a good place, not because I want to be treated the same way. So
yeah, and maybe you didn't explain that well. That's kind of what I meant, that you treat other people how you would like to be treated, but it's coming from a sincere place, not that you want someone to treat you like that, just that you genuinely have a heartfelt desire to treat other people well, like you're treating them well, and that's how you'd like to treat yourself, but you have no expectation that they treat you like that. They can do whatever they like.
And I think that's about like, well, how do I know how to treat people? How do I make that assessment? I don't have a rule book. I don't have all the religion. Everyone have different ideas. How do I assess for myself what is the right way to treat people? And then Jesus just left a very clear instruction. Well, would you like to be treated that way? Then you would know, well, I wouldn't like to be yelled at. So I guess, okay, I don't want to do that to somebody else. Becomes a very easy, a 4-year-old can understand rule of how do I gauge and how do I make that decision for myself without giving authority to some books and religion and elders. So, but that becomes a very nice, like a touchstone to make that decision. But yeah, the desire has to be like, I want to treat people nicely, but what does that even mean? How do I even come up with that? When people around me nobody has a clue, then that becomes a really nice way of making that decision. Laura?
Yeah, there's kind of a conundrum in that as well, just with what you're saying, because if you've been treated a certain way as a child, then you develop an acceptance that sort of treatment is okay, and then therefore you automatically do that thing to other people, and hurt people in the same way that you've been hurt. Yeah. But the response is you get feedback from that, so that you can see that your actions are unloving. That's and right. That feedback might even be that somebody treats you in that way again, and you get the emotion exposed, and then you realize, shit, you know, that doesn't feel very nice.
That's right.
To have that treatment.
That's right.
So yeah, it will take you down the path of wanting to explore how you prefer to treat, or how you prefer to be treated, or, you know.
So the environment can give you feedback and opportunities to reflect on it, but I guess you got to reflect on it. You got to actually want to think about, like, I don't like that treatment. So there are a lot of things as a child that I saw how treatments were going on, and I go, I don't ever want to treat somebody like that. And then the other things that I was treated at, that I went around and did the same thing. So I got a mixture of both. So, okay, that's a good point. But again, reflection, eh? Like, you got to sit and reflect on how your day went and how did it feel to have that interaction and what was like to be a friend.
The sort of honest reflection, isn't it? So just tying with what Michael was kind of saying, like your automatic reaction to treat the person that way, it might not be loving. And so you, in that case, you could then catch it before it happens, and then do something about it, make a different choice, and then go and sort of feel about why you wanted to do that to the person.
For me, it's usually after.
Yeah.
Reaction, I go, something didn't feel quite right. Or somebody will say something and I go, ooh, did I? Wow, I'm so not sensitive to this. What's happening? So unfortunately for me, it's after.
Yeah,
sometimes
I mean,
it's after doing, but most time it's after. We're about for now. Yeah. Okay.
I think we all can say that too.
But again, reflections. And I guess a sincere desire to want to treat somebody with love. What would drive that? I guess it's emotion, it's empathy. Like, you feel like, oh, that feels terrible. I don't want to make somebody feel terrible, or somebody is feeling terrible and my heart's going, how can I make this better, or comfort? So you're gonna have to replace your heart of stone with a heart of flesh, as I think Jesus said in the first century. Okay. And in some cases where you don't feel any empathy for somebody, then it's okay to say, I don't feel anything here. I'm just numb. And there's got to be a reason why. And like, for the longest time, I had no feelings for animals. I was like, I don't want to eat them, but I don't actually love them. So, okay, that's where I'm at. I don't know where that's coming from. And at some point I start to feel through the exhaustion of loving people is a burden and it's exhausting. And I cried about the exhaustion and all of that. And now it's just, there's something awakening where loving animals feels easy, feels fun, feels rewarding. So I'm like, thank God that worked. I don't know what worked, but something worked. So it's okay to kind of go, I don't feel it like that right now. I don't love people right now. I just don't want to hurt them, but God, I don't want to love them either. And that's okay. At some point that gets released. Can't be a chore. Okay, any other points about this topic, this chapter, overall chapter? For me, that overall chapter was about free will. It was like how carefully they were watching the free will of the Father. That was very eye-opening for me. And again, another repetition of when you come into the flesh, you forget what goes on in the sleep state. And it's like, is there a hint for me? You keep saying that message again and again, like, maybe it's time I look at it. Anything else that jumps out about this chapter for you guys? Selena?
I think what really, to make such a strong analogy, Jekyll and Hyde, like, that's pretty strong. He was the murderer.
Right.
Like, he killed, like, it was pretty, like, I think that was on purpose, like, to show that it can actually be that drastic difference. Yeah.
Gave me the chills. Like, it's got me nervous, going, whoa, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. So it's really trying to grow a desire to really want to know what's going on in our sleep state. It's to our benefit.
Yeah.
And Aphraar, that's the real state. This is the dream.
Mm.
So
And that other part that was interesting too about him standing on a hill with the warning before you go down there, you know, sort of the same thing. Like, I'm not kidding here. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
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 And I'm going, sorry, I'm already in the slope and trying to climb up.
Yeah. Well, once you start running down a hill, it's really hard to stop. Yeah.
Well, too late for me, maybe, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Laura.
You said Laura?
Oh, right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just sort of reading the end of that chapter and how it was kind of pretty stern on illustrating the point of the laws being the laws. And I know that's been mentioned a few times already throughout this chapter, but just that there's no escape from the consequences that we that are a result of our actions that are out of harmony with love. And we reap what we sow, so we we'll find out eventually, I guess. But it was pretty like, you know, matter of fact that's how it is.
That is non-negotiable.
Mm.
Yeah, there's something about mercy will delay the sentencing, but justice will follow through. Yeah, you may have the mercy of that you get to have 8-9 decades before you get there, but justice will follow through with what that is. Yeah, you're right. There is quite a stern message, and hopefully maybe in the next following chapter we'll make a topic out of that.
Yeah, and that you have to like repay your debts to the fullest extent.
The fullest extent, yeah. Thank you. Michael, did you have a...
Yeah, when you mentioned him standing on the hill and warning people, it reminded me, I have a hard time convincing other people that don't know about spiritual literature, why they should pay attention to it and getting any kind of belief or buy-in or stirring anything of value. And that's Fred's whole message. And this is one example that kind of answers that question. That there's a lot here for me to like try to absorb. Then I'll know why do I want to help people anyway? Part of the answer is there.
Okay, which is kind of an act of love, right? Like you don't want to see other people recklessly going down there, and how painful it is to come back from that.
Yeah, but nobody believes me.
Yeah.
And so in love, I have to let them go.
Good point. Which is what he's being taught to do about his dad. Let him go.
Yeah.
Make peace with that. One more hand, was it Selena? Yeah.
And he also, another kind of warning is with his dad. Like he says, my dad's with me now here, which is a really good place where he is now. So his dad actually must have done pretty good to be with him.
No, he said my dad is now passed.
My father. Yes.
If I were to go ask him. So
if I were to go ask, I thought he said he was with me. It is here with me now. Not now, but like here in this place or something. But if he was going to go ask him, he'd do anything to take him.
Would give every
like it's not, because I do tend to do that, well, I can fix this later. Like I don't have to do it now. I can, but he had this opportunity, as we all do, and his dad didn't take it. And how come I can't find it? I thought he said something about his dad being there now. But here it is. He is with us now, knowing the truth.
Yes.
So I'm assuming and were I to visit him, so maybe not in the same sphere, but he is with us now. So I assume from that he's not in hell, I guess. So, but he would still, the possibility he could have just changed everything in his life at that point, that he got this great opportunity. And he just didn't. But even so, like even if once you've paid your debts after you pass, you still would have still liked to have done it
Yeah.
sooner. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe because of the damage that's caused, maybe. If you don't, maybe that's why. Yeah.
Karen, were you gonna add?
No, I just had found the quote and I was going to read it just before Selena did, but no, all good.
Thank you. Michael? Okay. Okay, wow. Good discussion, and we'll continue on next week.